Okay, so till yesterday I tried to discuss one-on-one, but at times it is very difficult, to manage one-on-one interaction. So I thought to give my point of views about revision, how to write sociology answers and all. Things are very simple. It's not that difficult. It's not rocket science like thing, है ना? So I will expect that you comprehend and you think कि this discussion has been between me and you in one-on-one, yes, format, right? Because it's really difficult, it's very difficult to manage daily 10 discussion, 20 after discussion with 20 students and, telling them these points. उसके बाद फिर एनर्जी नहीं रहता कि फिर आई डू समथिंग particularly organizing the content for next day, next classes and all, right? So look, here I will answer some of the questions raised by you in one-on-one discussions when you come to me, right? Particularly for mains after prelims. How to revise sociology optional, right? This is one common question. How to revise sociology optional, right? So many masters are also there, like Sachin, Patel ji, right? Those who wrote last year, है ना? And got decent or at indecent. Decent score, Patel. Decent score or average? Yes. Shukla is also there, right? No. Lakshman nahi hai. Okay. Yes. So, masters know how to revise well. Last year also they did practice with me, right? Answer writing. They did revise things. But many of you would be writing for the first time, right? So, ठीक है. Last man. Yes, you. Yes. How do you revise things? How do you revise sociology? Going? Topic wise. Topic wise reading. है ना? Topic wise reading, right? Okay. Or, yes, you? Second revision, third revision के लिए. Yes. Sachin Sahab? Content. Yes. Yours? Similar things. Okay. ठीक है. How to revise? Yes. Look, we have 10 units in paper 1, right? We have 10 units in paper 1. 3 master units in paper 2, right? है ना? And during your preparation for the subject, you're learning, you read the complete syllabus, right? The units, the topics and the subtopics within. Yes, na? The units, topics and subtopics within, right? So, at the time of revision, you should keep the syllabus with you, right? Syllabus apne paas rakho. Always, have syllabus and PYQs. Syllabus and PYQs. This is PYQ, previous year question. This is trend analysis. You will all get, trend analysis, right? Suppose you start with, modernity and social change in Europe and emergence of sociology, right? This is the topic to revise. Fine. So, what do you do? Before you revise the topic, before you revise the content, revisit the content, refer to previous year questions related to the topic, refer to previous year questions related to the topic, and try to find out interpretative linkage, right? Try to interpret the question, demand of the question, right? For example, Europe was the first and the only place where modernity emerged. This is the question, right? UPSC asked last year. This was the first question, right? And the keyword is comment. Keyword is comment, right? So, comment. Comment means what? What do you mean by comment? Comment means express your opinion. Yes, please. Comment means express your opinion, express your viewpoint. Describe your viewpoint on the basis of observations, right? Comment means description of our viewpoints on the basis of observations, right? I have to revise this topic, modernity and social change. I will go through previous year question, right? The latest question asked last year is Europe was the first and the only place where modernity emerged. Comment. Comment means description of viewpoints based on observations. The observations which we have on the basis of our learning of the topic. Try to understand. The observation which we have on the basis of learning of our topic, learning of the topic, right, mentioned in syllabus, that is there in your notes, as well as, since the question is comment, so observations might be beyond our, readings of the topic in our notes. Observations might be, historical, right? Historical observations, key modernity, fine. Modern values like equality, freedom, justice, liberty, these are the modern values. These modern values, modern structures, right? Modern social structure, institution, norms emerged after revolutionary event. Commercial revolution, scientific revolution, French and industrial revolution. है ना? All these things you will revise, modernity will revise, but at the same time, you should take care of the question, since question was comment, and in comment I had to write, I had to describe the viewpoint based on observation, and observation is not there in, my observations are not limited to Europe, European sociology, but also history in India, and so while commenting on this question, Europe was the first and the only place. So no, lastly I will comment, Europe was not the first and only place where modernity emerged. We have, references of modern values like equality, justice in writings of medieval, periods, Bhakti movement, Sufi movement, Buddhism, isn't it? So, it's not the only, Europe is not the only place where modernity had emerged. Modern values can be traced in Indian society too, and that too before enlightenment and revolutionary events, changes and transformation. Getting your point? So, this is, like you revise your notes, but don't limit yourself to those points, the content which is there in your notes, because history ka notes is also your notes only, isn't it? Yes or no? That study of history, you have made note out of history classes and all. So if some point is relevant there, we can borrow from that too, right? Got my point? What's your name? Last man? Yes. Huh? Tiwari ji. You had written mains last year? Okay. I guess Tiwari ji, you were. Did we talk earlier? Huh? So this is first time you are coming to me, right? Okay. Okay. Don't get surprised. Be comfortable. The way you are looking at me, matlab, it's feels like. So, interview mein, how much marks did you get? Huh? Okay. So after mains, you please come to me. Need to change the body language, right? Little bit to get better score, right? Okay, no problem, no problem. So, did you get my suggestion for revision? How to revise? This is the first question, you know. When you come to me, you ask, sir, how to revise? How to do revision, isn't it? So, this is the way, you know, refer to your notes. First, make listing, paper 1 topics, paper 2 topics, and GS topics, paper 1, 2, 3 GS topics, listing, right? And they go for detailed revision in the context of the previous year question. Try to guess, try to understand the question, the scope of the question was commentary, so that commentary should not be limited only what is written in your sociological notes. Some commentary you can also, you know, do on the basis of your observations of history, Indian history, right? Indian social history, etc. है ना? So this is getting your point. समझ में आ रहा है? Revision कैसे करना है ना? So such revision would be solution oriented revision. Otherwise completion तो सभी करते हैं. Getting a point. You have to do, you know, solution oriented revision. Solution oriented revision. कि मेरे को क्या करना है आखिर में, last में? I have to write exam, I have to solve, I have to write answers, isn't it? So notes are there, पूरा bulky notes, isn't it? Make list on A4 paper कि these units I have to revise, paper 1, paper 2, GS, isn't it? Refer to previous year question, see the trend, okay fine, these are the questions asked from this topic, I am going to revise that topic, take into account the scope of the question, discuss, comment, etc., isn't it? Getting a point. Try to find out ki what all points I can borrow from other topics of the syllabus in this topic, because that is where you can take competitive A's, right? All your competitors will write 5 points, 5 points, 5 points. You also know 5 points. You have to write 2 point extra, and that you can do, right, by correlating this topic with other topics, isn't it? So you must mark, okay fine, if some question is related to modernity and social change, these are also the facts which I can quote. Getting a point or not? So this is how you have to revise. In your revision of the topics, you know, see, 3-dimensional revision in sociology. This is next point, next suggestion, you know, to you. 3-dimensional revision, like finding out the concepts, right? Thinkers or theories and facts. Concepts, thinkers or theories and facts. Social facts. Facts, social facts. That is. उसके beyond कुछ है क्या sociology में? हाँ? उसके beyond है, Harlombus है, Ridger है, Giddens है ना? Some non-essentials are there, some essentials are there, isn't it? Getting your point. The Vigyan of toppers are there, है ना? The Vigyan of toppers are also there, right? Ab, look, the situation is very chaotic, है ना? And reality is described to be infinite, and out of this chaotic and infinite reality, you have to develop the ideal type of reality. यही बोला है ना मैक्स वेबर ने. तो हमें तो दूसरे का कुछ देखना ही नहीं है सिलेबस में. ये भी बात सिलेबस में ही है कि आइडियल टिपिकल, isn't it? Getting your point or not? है ना? Ideal typical क्या है? In all the topics, you know, you will find, you know, in most of the topics you will find some concepts, some thinkers or theoretical views, and the facts, isn't it? Most of the topics. So focus आपका इस पे होना चाहिए. Focus आपका इस पे होना चाहिए. Focus आपका shift नहीं होना चाहिए कि हाँ, like this is the phase after prelims and before mains. You should avoid referring and reading to the new things, new books, new notes, whatever you have. You try to find out solution from there, and you can find out solution. Because you have to answer just 62% of the total questions, only 62%, and you have to cover, you know, 70, maximum 80% of the total syllabus while answering those questions, isn't it? You have to go for minimum, you have to be more concise and precise, isn't it? So never try to maximize in your revisions कि उस दोस्त ने कुछ नया दे दिया, है ना? उस दोस्त ने कुछ नया दे दिया, है ना? एग्जाम के जस्ट पहले एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन में नहीं जाना है. Many students are going in that. तो फिर प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा. Whatever you have, just organize that, try to find out in the topics, concept, theories and facts. Concept, theories and facts. Modernity, for example, if we take the same topic, modernity and social changes in Europe and emergence of sociology. What is modernity? What is social change? Concept? Yes or no? Right? Then facts, enlightenment, revolutionary events, structural changes, isn't it? Structural changes, institutional changes caused by commercial revolution, scientific revolution, French revolution, industrial revolution, right? Which disturbed and perturbed mind of thinkers, Auguste Comte, Herbert Spencer, Karl Marx, isn't it? Many thinkers, right? And thus emerged, science of, these thinkers applied scientific method. The early thinkers applied positive method, scientific method. They tried to systematize the knowledge, the body of knowledge, right? To study the society, and thus emerged, sociology. So overall frame will include concepts, facts, and thinkers or their theories. That is there, है ना? So this is how you should revise. इसमें बहुत difficulty कहाँ है? While revision, while you are revising the topics, third suggestion, while you are revising the topic, try to do listing. ठीक है ना? मैंने suppose ये topic finish किया, modernity and social change in Europe and emergence of sociology, right? I will list the dimensions. What is modernity? What is social change, right? How enlightenment and revolutionary events induced modernity in Europe, right? What were the changes, right? Structural changes, institutional changes, value changes, normative changes. Who were the thinkers, right? Who tried to systematize the study of society, right? Who were the thinkers? Lastly, we will list, listing of 5, so that list help you recall the whole story, complete story. So listing is important. Detailing हो जाएगा. What you miss there? Miss out क्या होता है? Sudden, blank, the listing. If you are able to recall the list, the dimensions, you will recall the story, right? The concepts, the theoretical strands and the facts. वो recall हो जाएगा, है ना? So revision के समय you should not be lazy, you should very promptly you should make the list. You should do listing of the content. Listing जरूरी है ना? जो कि हम नहीं करते, right? If you do listing, you will do very good detailing of that, right? In examination hall, detailing हो जाता है ना? Like suppose you have to do revision, like you are revising the topic historical materialism, right? So you will do listing, listing the intellectual impact, right, on Karl Marx that prompted him to study society, right, or history of society materially. Second, Hegel's notion of history. Third, Marxian reformation of Hegel, right? Fourth, Marx, proposition on historical materialism. Why it is called historical? Why materialistic? Next, stages of historical materialism. Second last, criticism, and lastly, its contribution and relevance in today's society, right? Its application in today's society, है ना? And today's society में मतलब जबरदस्ती का करंट अफेयर्स नहीं, है ना? हिंदू का कटिंग नहीं, राइट? इंडियन एक्सप्रेस और 390 डिग्री एंड 400 डिग्री नहीं तो उतना ही ज्यादा करंट लगेगा एग्जाम में, राइट? मार्क्स में स्ट्रक्चरल relevance for social structure, studying the social structure, isn't it? Getting a point in today's society, right? So we'll do listing during revision of the topic, listing. that listing would be easy, you know, to revise in between GS and mains ka gap, isn't it? GS paper and sociology paper. Isliye that listing is very important. So must do that listing, है ना? So this is. कितना सजेशन हुआ? 3 सजेशन हुआ ना? अब क्या इस पे रिसर्च करना है रिवीजन के लिए? We need not to do research. These are the simple, you know, way. This is the simplest way to revise. रिवीजन का. नहीं तो यूपीएससी इस बार समझा दिया ना, बहुत वीडियो बना दिया था लोगों ने. क्या? एलिमिनेशन अप्रोच. So UPSC eliminated everyone, right? Unnecessarily we try to make things complex. अरे simple reasoning है. If you are able to recall the facts, concepts, you will solve, otherwise not. So better focus on revision, mugging up, isn't it? Why to do unnecessary research on elimination approach, है ना? So these are some suggestions, you know, to revise, right? And for revision, like how many of you have made your own notes out of class or copied some other notes? Anyhow, you know, your own notes. I guess all of you. Class notes, that is, मतलब in your writing, your words, है ना? ये नहीं कि वो toppers का notes और ये सब, ये book and all, नहीं. Your own words, your own notes. What do you write? That's easy to recall, isn't it? If you have not done so, during revision, you know, please try to make shorter notes. At least do listing, right? Listing is kind of, you know, you can, kya Patel ji, listing is like synoptic notes, yeah, that is synopsis, making synopsis listing. जैसे whenever you see धर्मेंद्र or Amitabh Bachchan, you recall the movie Sholay. Yes or no? Yes, na? So that listing is like Amitabh Bachchan और धर्मेंद्र. आपको पूरा मूवी देखना होता है क्या? सारे डायलॉग याद आ जाते हैं ना? कितने आदमी थे? गब्बर याद आ जाता है ना? So that listing will help you, you know, reflect on the picture, right? The picture which includes, you know, concept, theories and facts, right? That listing is very important in your own words. छुपा के लिस्ट बनाना है, competitor हैं सब आपस में, है ना? तो अपनी listing and keep strengthening that listing, you know, right? So that you could write some extra points. Once you made the list, right? While, you know, moving forward, Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4, Unit 5 to 10, then Paper 1, Unit 2, perspective, structure, change, you will get some point, you know, to add on. कुछ तो मिलेगा add on करने के लिए, isn't it, in that list? And those points will help you getting competitive edge over others. Those points will be, you know, novel, different from that of others, isn't it, in your answer? To bring some distinction, you need not to, you know, mug up these current affairs and so-called sociology. Sociology current affairs is a big scam actually, right? In fact, current affairs for this exam is a big scam, right? Big scam है ये, है ना? Hardly 10% of the current affairs, those who have written mains must have realized, hardly 10% is used in your mains exam, GS में, है ना? Sociology में तो वो भी यूज नहीं होगा, यूज करोगे तो 200 पे जाओगे. Many students have got 97 marks in paper 1 and 87 marks in paper 2 because of current affairs effect. Sociology is systematic and scientific study of society, right? It's systematic and scientific study of society. You cannot make it a current affairs, you know, right? Note, you will have to, you know, systematized by using concepts, theories and facts, right? Even the current, you know, developments, you have to analyze by applying the concept, theoretical strands and facts. The concept, theoretical strands and facts, isn't it? Right. So this is. So I guess you got some idea how to revise, yes or no? Simple है ना? या आपके पास कोई और अजूबा कोई तरीका, नायाब तरीका हो तो प्लीज शेयर. 4, 5. These rules you will follow, to revise. Getting a point. First, make list of all the topics of syllabus, paper 1, paper 2, and general studies also. Keep that list of GS also with you, GS 1, 2, 3, right? Then refer to PYQ, you can collect this trend analysis. I will ask her to send on your WhatsApp or trend analysis. In this trend analysis, I have described the core topics, semi-peripheral topics, and peripheral topics. And last year also, Patel Sahab, did you analyze this? Last year, this modernity and social change was in core topic, and there was a question. So, on the basis of, my experience, my learnings, like it's not that difficult, to do intelligent guesswork, right, for the questions what UPSC is going to ask on the basis of the frequency of questions, in previous 10, 15 years, isn't it? So if you understand that frequency, you can do intelligent guesswork. So I have done this guesswork also. You refer to PYQ during revision, try to understand the scope of the topic, isn't it? And accordingly, don't limit yourself to the topic, reflect on some other, facts and concepts also of the syllabus to optimize that topic. Getting your point? So, isko saath mein rakh ke revise karna hai, isn't it? Because ultimately we are going to solve the problem, na? And these are, sample problems, isn't it? Right? A scope of problem you have to understand and you have to revise accordingly, right? So, this is. Then you have to interpret the concept, theoretical strands and facts. You have to focus on what? Concepts, theoretical strands and facts related to the topic, isn't it? Uska objective listing karna hai, isn't it? Getting your point? After revision, you have to list the dimensions. Kya karna hai? Dimensions ko list karna hai. And as you move ahead, you have to do backward forward linkages and you have to strengthen that list. You have to optimize that list. Us list ko optimize karna hai. Simple. Getting your point? So this is. Now, second was how to interpret the question. Most of you have problem in interpretation of the question, right? Yes, this is. In GS also, I found this year, many students who have got very good score in sociology, but very poor score in general studies because of misinterpretation of the question. Because of misinterpretation of question. Because after prelims, most of you are highly focused on, model content, model notes, model content, current affairs, isn't it? Writing answers. But the most important thing to do is on regular basis interpreting the problem. Interpreting the problem. On regular basis, you have to do practice of interpretation of the question. Right? Fixed hours में कि हाँ मेरे को 1 घंटा interpret करना है problem को. If you interpret the problem, if you interpret the nature and scope of the problem, you will give relatively relevant and good solution also, isn't it? है ना? So question का interpretation, this is very important thing to do. So how to interpret question? How do you interpret question? Yes, Tiwari ji. How did you interpret the question when you wrote mains? Based on the keywords, right? Suppose the keyword is account for. The keyword is account for. Give an account of or account for. Second point of discussion, how to interpret the scope of the question, right? scope and nature, right? So, Tiwari ji rightly said to interpret on the basis of keywords. So, suppose simple keywords account for, or give an account of, give an account of. So, what does this mean? इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? Account for or give an account of, synonymous, yes? List of the? हाँ. Yeah, that is that. Account of means what? Regions. Simple. Account of. If the keyword is account of, so you have to give, simple regions. But do we limit ourselves to giving the regions? We are preparing for this exam in a world where every day you are given with 100 of solutions and 100 of way forwards, isn't it? Editorials, है ना? Current affairs notes, and every note end up with way forward, right? So question where mistake is committed, by the aspirant, the question is give an account of or key is account for. So demand is only giving up the regions, but because of the overtraining and this orientation of giving suggestion, becoming an IAS and becoming directly, secretary, chief secretary, before, the recommendation of UPSC, that orientation, let the student cause the fallacy of extravagance, right? Exaggeration, fallacy of exaggeration. Demand है नहीं, जबरदस्ती का सॉल्यूशन दे दिया. क्यों? सीनियर ने बोला था कि जरूर सॉल्यूशन देना है. टॉपर्स ने कहा था सॉल्यूशन मस्ट बी सॉल्यूशन ओरिएंटेड. योर आंसर, एक लाइन सुन लिया कि सर उस टॉपर ने अपने यूट्यूब के रील में, राइट, और फेसबुक में ऐसा बोला था कि यू हैव टू बी सॉल्यूशन ओरिएंटेड. अब एक लाइन किस कॉन्टेक्स्ट, इन व्हाट कॉन्टेक्स्ट दैट टॉपर हैड सेड कि बी सॉल्यूशन ओरिएंटेड, इट हार्डली मैटर्स. दिमाग में बैठ गया सॉल्यूशन ओरिएंटेड. क्वेश्चन इज गिव अकाउंट ऑफ यू आर राइटिंग द solution. So fallacy of exaggeration, low score. Getting your point? So this is, right? Interpret the keywords well. है ना? That keyword का interpretation will determine your fit. है ना? Okay. Not only keyword, also count the stimulus. Also count the stimuli or the dimensions of the questions, कि कितना डायमेंशन है, isn't it? कितना डायमेंशन है, कितना स्टिमुलस है क्वेश्चन के, and you have to give your response over those stimuli, isn't it? There may be 2 stimuli, 3 stimuli, and you have to be responsive on that, isn't it? You have to give reasoned response on that, right, as per the stimuli. Not अपने मन की बात, PM बनेंगे तब अपने मन की बात करना है ना. अभी वहीं what is demanded by those dimensions, those stimuli. Your response should be very objective, specific to the stimuli, right? Okay. Let us see, some, जैसे account for, account of. This is one keyword. There is other keyword, assessment. Give an assessment. Assess. होता है ना ऐसा? Yes. इसका मतलब, सचिन साहब, last year you have written assessment में, yes, while you are doing assessment, so you have to give both positive and negatives, isn't it? You have to count on the positive aspect, positive consequences, contribution, and negative aspect, negative, consequences, contributions, etc. Isn't it? Getting your point. But The real test is what at the end. What at the end. Always remember. It's always easy to write, positives and negatives. Isn't it? A strength and weaknesses. Always easy to write. Bipolar writing is always easy, right? A strength and reverse thesis weaknesses. But marks will depend on conclusion. Marks will depend on conclusion. Isn't it? Getting a point. So in conclusion, what should we do? Conclusion में क्या करना चाहिए ऐसे questions में? Assess the contribution of Karl Marx to sociology. Assess the contribution of Karl Marx to sociology. This is a question with very wide scope, isn't it? Marxian sociology is the sociology of class struggle. Yes, na? It's sociology of materialistic understanding of the society. Understanding of society based on mode of production. It has its strengths, positives, Marxian conceptions, and it has its limitations. Yes or no? But at the last में क्या? Positive or negative? Huh? Balance, isn't it? We will have, balanced orientation, isn't it? Fine, first we will write a strength, then we will write weaknesses. उसके बाद some impressive, quotation or suggestion. क्लास में भी मैं देता था ना? क्या? Despite above criticisms, Marxian theory, Marxian concepts still glittering high in the galaxy of sociology. But भाई ये जो गैलेक्सी को आप देखते हैं वो दिन और रात दोनों देखते हैं कि रात में जो ग्लिटरिंग जो स्टार्स आर ग्लिटरिंग राइट सो इट्स रिलेटेड टू time and context, isn't it? It cannot have universal, although it's glittering high, but it cannot have universal applications, isn't it? With change in time and context, the facts, social facts and realities have changed, isn't it? So some aspect, like material aspect, we can well, understand, but for others, we need to rely on other theoretical strands, isn't it? So we will try to balance at the end. Getting your point? Interpretation, like assessment, when it comes to assessment, so not only a strength, weaknesses, as suggested to you, but your conclusions would also be, well balanced, including both strength as well as weaknesses. Getting your point? So this is, right. Let us see some other keywords also. Just a last year question, there was question, from the viewpoint of growing importance of multidisciplinary, how do you relate sociology to other social sciences? How do you relate sociology to other social sciences? See, in sociology, you will not always have, direct keywords. Yes or no? You will not always have direct keywords, comment or ye. इसमें कोई direct keyword है? From the viewpoint of growing importance of multidisciplinary approach, how do you relate sociology to other social sciences? So basically, here the latent keyword is, the keyword which is implicit in this question is compare, isn't it? Compare, है ना? Compare. So, while doing comparison, what do? क्या करते हैं comparison में? Comparison में similarities and differences. So whenever the key, whether manifest or latent, the key is comparison. So you will go for description of what? Similarities and differences. Points of convergence and points of divergence. Simple. And point of convergence and divergence on three bases: conceptual basis, theoretical basis and factual basis, right? Point of convergence and divergence on the basis of, concepts, theories, and the facts. Facts, isn't it? Economic fact is limited to economy, right? Society ka fact is, not only economy but also political, religious, isn't it? Yes or no? Right. So this is. So this is the keyword. Compare. How is sociology related to common sense? How is sociology related to common sense? This is. How is sociology related? How is sociology related to? So what is implicit keyword? How is sociology related to common sense, right? Simple keyword, implicit keyword is to what extent sociology related to common sense. To what extent, right? Sociology related to common sense. That you have to describe, na? Common sense. And so what will you refer in this writing? Sociology, common sense, and then to what extent it is related. To fix this extent, we will refer to the theoretical conceptual aspects of symbolic interactionism, phenomenology, and ethno-methodology, isn't it? And some applied in day-to-day life, common sense is significant. Those common sense, helps in building hypothesis and development of the body of knowledge of sociology through sociological research, isn't it? Right. So this is to what extent? How is sociology related to common sense? To what extent? Getting your point or not? Right. So this is first you have to do interpretation of keywords. Yes. ओहो, नॉलेज का मतलब ये नहीं कि जबरदस्ती अपना सभी नॉलेज दे देंगे, राइट? वी हैव टू लिमिट आवरसेल्फ टू द context of the question, and here the context is how is sociology related to common sense? How is sociology related to common sense? Simple, right? Question ये थोड़ी ना कि how sociology is unrelated to common sense. Relation पूछ रहा है आपसे. To what extent it is related to common sense? Patel ji, what you did? You wrote divergence. So ये हो गया fallacy of exaggeration, right? Extravagance. और जब ये extravagance का fallacy होगा, so marks नहीं देंगे because this is for Indian administrative service. Your usage of resources should be very concise and precise while writing answer. You need to be very objective while writing answer, right? केवल knowledge पे marks नहीं मिलता. Knowledge तो बहुत होता है हमें, है ना? Those who analyze objectively, those who use resources, optimally, right? They get good score, है ना? So this is. Yes, you are asking something. हाँ, that is. To what extent? तो वही. That is what we study in this symbolic interactionism, ethno-methodology. They all use commonsensical, isn't it? Right? Non-positive. Yes. Yes. Let me take some more questions. That's what I am taking. Questions. Let me take some more questions. Yes. See, how did the intellectual forces lead to the emergence of sociology? How did the intellectual forces lead to emergence of sociology? The keyword is discuss. Keyword is discuss. How did the intellectual forces lead to emergence of sociology? Discuss. Fourth keyword क्या आया? It direct है. Discuss. I will take some other questions also in which it's latent. Discuss. So discuss में what do we do? Tiwari ji? Discuss. Discuss all the aspect. See, Question is कि how did the intellectual forces led to emergence of sociology? How did intellectual forces lead to emergence of sociology? Right? Discuss. When we discuss, just say 5 friends are discussing. So when 5 friends are discussing, they go for some deeper explorations. Yes or no? Just say you recalled, first friend some 2 points, second friend 3 and 4 point, third one 5 and 6 point, fourth one 7 and 8 points, fifth one 9 and 10 points, isn't it? So when it is discussed, you should try to analyze, examine the question, right? Analyze the question by examining all sides, isn't it? Maximum possible, explorations, isn't it? Objectively. Question is, how did the intellectual forces lead to emergence? So intellectual forces, bole to intellectual thoughts. So it will not, most of the students, what they do, they limit themselves to keys discuss, but they will start with, okay, Auguste Comte, Herbert Spencer, Emile Durkheim. Here is, how did intellectual forces lead to emergence sociology discuss? We will go beyond Auguste Comte, Rousseau, Voltaire, Montesquieu, isn't it? Their ideas, their writings, from there we will explore, isn't it? Getting your point? We will try to examine more and more when it comes to, discussion, being objective, being concise and precise. Being objective, being concise and precise. Getting your point? We will relate ki how the equalities, right, or the writings of Rousseau influenced, Emile Durkheim. The general will theory of Rousseau and collective consciousness theory of Emile Durkheim. Related hai na? General will, collective conscience, isn't it? So this is, right. Okay. There is a question asked last year. Just make it direct keyword is not there, like explain critically. Acha, rest of the question mein to direct keyword is there, like just say keyword is explain whether Durkheim's theory of division of labor is relevant in the present day context. Explain. Question is explain whether Durkheim's theory of division of labor is relevant in present day context. Keyword is explain. Explain. So, what is the extent of explanation? इसमें क्या होता है? When it comes to explain. Explain. Sachin Saab. याद रखिएगा, नोट कर लीजिए अभी आप लोग, right? See, when it comes to see the question को भी 2-3 बार explain whether Durkheim's theory of division of labor is relevant in present day context. Durkheim's theory of division of labor relevant in present day. Explain whether Durkheim's theory of division of labor is relevant in present day context. You have studied that Durkheim's theory of division of labor is relevant. It's relevant in present day context, isn't it? Whenever it's come, ki explain whether this particular theory is relevant, so first you will take the stand. देखो कभी deny नहीं करोगे initially कि this is not relevant. If Durkheim is there in syllabus, we are studying Durkheim because Durkheim is relevant, his concepts and theories are relevant. So what we will do, कि yes, first stand we will take description of Durkheim's division of labor, क्या है, and then we will take a stand कि Durkheim's division of labor theory is relevant and explain whether है, तो you will go for giving reasons कि why this is relevant. अगर आता है explain, right, तो you will go for giving reasons कि why this is relevant. Theory को explain करने के लिए बोल रहा है. In relevant present day context, so you will give reasons कि why this theory is relevant in present day context, isn't it? You will give references. Durkheim has argued कि division of labor promotes solidarity in society, right? So yes, in the you will give example, you know, southern state का example, America का example, Britain का example, कि in these states in wake of, you know, volume, increasing volume of population, material density, moral density, division of labor changed, and so there are solidarity in at the same time in other regions like West Bengal, Naxalism, Bihar, Maoism, at a time, you know, right, till 90s, millennium decade, where despite increase in volume of population, material density, moral density, like a specialized division of labor could not happen, and so there has been lack of solidarity that is reflected in caste conflict, isn't it? Communal conflict, yes or no? Middle East में देख लो, conflict between Shia and Sunnis, isn't it? Despite urbanization, Iraq urban society, isn't it? Despite urbanization, right, dependence remained on petrodollars, a specialized division of labor could not happen, and so solidarity could not be promoted. So that theory is still relevant to understand the social reality, right? So this is reasons, give reasons ki why this is relevant. So you will give evidences, isn't it? Right? So this is. एक बहुत frequently usage होता है, that is current structural, that is what we are giving, na? Contemporary. Current is not limited to what reported in today's newspaper and what you read in 340 degree, है ना? Not that. What is continuous? What is continuous? Isn't it? Continuity में देखेंगे चीजों को. Getting your point? Yes. There is one keyword, critically examine the dialectics involved in each mode of production as propounded by Karl Marx. Critically examine. ये बहुत common है ना? Keyword. Critically examine. This is one very common keyword, right? Critically examine. Yes. So इसमें क्या करते हैं अपन? Critically examine में? हाँ? Question is, last year का, critically examine the dialectics involved in each mode of production. Critically examine the dialectics involved in each mode of production as propounded by Karl Marx. Isn't it? Critically examine. खैर क्वेश्चन को अभी रिवीजन नहीं हुआ है, so we might not be recalling question, right? आंसर you know, तो घबराना नहीं है कि अरे क्या आंसर होगा इसका. Forgetfulness is, you know, human. Be human, forget. अगर आप भूलते हैं इसका मतलब कि आप इंसान हैं, है ना? भूलना चाहिए. If we will not forget, our life would become very complex. Yes or no? So भूलेंगे, रिवाइज करेंगे, याद आ जाएगा, है ना? Yes or no? अगर हैट्रेड को हम भूलते नहीं तो आज क्या हम कोएग्जिस्ट करते? Because at some point or other in most of the groups have some point of hatred, isn't it? Conflict, है ना? So भूलते हैं, forgetfulness. So अगर कोई फैक्ट भूल गया तो ऐसा नहीं कि दुनिया खत्म हो गया. Revise it, you will recall. Okay, fine. Critically examine. So what we do, Patel? Critically examine में? Look, whenever you know these terms come, critically examine. जैसे यहाँ पे क्या है? Dialectics in each stage. That is the point. You have to critically examine. So try to write clearly the pros and cons of the point raised in the question. Pros and cons of the point raised in the question. Isn't it? Getting your point. And like in such question, you will have to be judgmental at the end. And your judgment should be based on the evidences. Your judgment should be based on the evidences. Your conclusion should be based on the evidences. Isn't it? Dialectics में क्या बोला है कार्ल मार्क्स ने कि भाई mode of production, the new force of production enters into conflict, contradiction with the old relations of production. yahi na? And that contradiction between new force of production and old relations of production leads to antagonism, conflict between the relations of production, matlab have class and have not class. yahi hai na? Getting your point? Critically examine आपने करना है इसको, isn't it? So you will describe Marxian point of view, then you will do criticisms, isn't it? कि conflict is not there on the basis of material forces. You will refer to Ralph Dahrendorf. You will refer to power elite theory. You will refer to neo-Marxist, isn't it? Getting your point? You will refer to Emile Durkheim कि conflict at times emerge because of anomie, normlessness, yes or no? When population increases, density increases, conflict for resources increase in society. Yes ना? ये सब लिखेंगे ना? है ना? Right? So this is one aspect, but on the basis of evidences, you will balance too. Relevance भी fix करेंगे लास्ट में, है ना? क्रिटिसाइज भी करेंगे और इसमें क्या करेंगे? रेलेवेंस भी फिक्स करेंगे. क्रिटिकली एग्जामिन कर रहा है, isn't it? तो इन योर एग्जामिनेशन, isn't it, you will have to describe the criticism of the dialectics, notion of dialectics in each stage, as well as its methodological significance. Its methodological significance for sociology. तो लास्ट में बैलेंस करेंगे इसको, क्रिटिसिज्म को मेथोडोलॉजिकल सिग्निफिकेंस के थ्रू. गेटिंग अ पॉइंट? आप स्टेजेस को वो कर रहे हैं, क्रिटिसाइज कर रहे हैं. ये कह रहा है कि भाई इकोनॉमी, फोर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, ओल्ड रिलेशंस ऑफ प्रोडक्शन. राल्फ डैरेंडॉर्फ कह रहा है कि नहीं, अथॉरिटी के लिए, पावर के लिए, पावर एलीट एंड मासेस के बीच में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, इजंट इट? पैरेटो कह रहा है लॉयन एंड फॉक्सेस के बीच में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. दरखिम कह रहा है कि कॉन्फ्लिक्ट इज एनोमिक सिचुएशन में, isn't it? But lastly कि in today's society too, right, this dialectics provides us with a ready-made method to understand the reality. आज men and women के बीच में conflict हो रहा है, and major cause of conflict, divorce and separation is what? The role conflict because of changes in role of women in modern society. Conflict between tribes and non-tribes. Conflict between castes. आपको क्या लग रहा है? कास्ट के बीच में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट किस कारण से हो रहा है? कास्ट हैज सबस्टेंशिएटेड इन पॉलिटिक्स, कास्ट हैज सबस्टेंशिएटेड इन इकोनॉमी, isn't it? So कुछ रेफरेंस, अब इतना सारा ज्ञान तो क्लास वाला ज्ञान होता है, कुछ रेफरेंस देकर यू विल ऑल्सो जस्टिफाई मार्क्सियन dialectics. कि आज भी dialectics method help us understand the conflict in society, and conflict is one important aspect of the social reality, right? So coming back to, खैर ये तो टीचर का यही आदत होता है ना कि वो स्लिप करने लगता है पढ़ाने में. Here we are discussing critically examine. So critically examine में what you have to do? क्या करना है आपको? You have to inquire into pros and cons, isn't it? And yes, you have to, finally what you have to do? Your decisions, your judgments at the end must be supported by the evidences, isn't it? Evidences. You must give the reason, some reason, right, of the criticism and some reason of its relevance, है ना? So this is, ठीक है. एक very frequently mentioned keyword is highlight. होता है ना क्वेश्चन में, highlight the features, highlight, है ना? तो क्या रहता है उसमें? highlight में क्या बोलते हैं अपन? तिवारी जी, highlight, हाँ, highlight मतलब important features, characteristics, evidences, whatever the key demand, उसको references के through we have to glorify, isn't it? highlight कर देना है, right? support कर देना है, unnecessary उसके criticism and inquiry में नहीं जाना है, isn't it? So this is. One keyword is elucidate, elucidate, है ना? होता है ना? Keyword आता है ना ऐसा? Elucidate, right? What does this mean, elucidate? Look, elucidate, if we find, in PYQ, you will find, कि elucidate is the keyword related to the theme of the question, which is little bit obscure actually, right? Which is not clear, right? Which is not clear. And what you have to do, you have to bring clarity, right? जैसे one question, history of either two existing societies, history of class struggle, elucidate. ऐसे question में होगा elucidate, right? It is not the consciousness that determine the being, but this is the being that determine the consciousness. Full stop, elucidate. Getting your point? So elucidation means what? Clarifying the dimensions which is not clearly evident in the statement. Getting your point? जो statement में clear नहीं है ना? So basically, if such questions comes कि it is the consciousness that determine, it is not the consciousness that determine the being, but it is the being, economic being, that determine the consciousness. So basic point of marks. कहाँ से शुरू करेंगे? कि for survival human act upon nature. Human का nature है काम करना, work to survive, and when they work, they develop social relation. Those social relation, established and patterned in and institutionalized in structures, isn't it? Economic structure, base structure, and superstructure, isn't it? So, उस point से we will, try to, and then in different stages, how the class position shapes humans' behavior, humans' orientation, their status, role in the society. वही point है ना? It is not the consciousness that determine the being, but this is the being, class being, that determine the consciousness, isn't it? इसमें you have a scope, to bring clarity with more references and examples, right? Being women and being men in society, don't you think this determines the consciousness? Yes or no? I mean, location of women and location of men is different or not? Social location, है ना? Smoking by a woman outside this class might be a surprising thing. Oh my God, smoking, women smoking, isn't it? So men का consciousness determined by women, right? Her being a woman, that person being a woman, isn't it? So इसमें novel point भी, while elucidating, you have freedom to add on some novel points also to bring clarity, right, for the evaluator. Getting your point? So this is how you have to write. If keyword is interpretation, interpret. So interpretation में what we do? We interpret the concepts, the theoretical points with the evidences, with the facts, examples, references, isn't it? Interpretation. Simple interpretation. You will go on interpreting. उसमें जबरदस्ती का एनालिसिस वगैरह नहीं करेंगे, है ना? जबरदस्ती का सुपर एनालिटिक्स वगैरह नहीं. Interpretation with the facts, right? So these are some keywords. Other interpretation का aspect is not related only to keywords but the stimuli of the question, है ना? Stimuli of the question. That is very important to mark both in optionals as well as general studies. दोनों papers में आपको stimuli को mark करना is very important, right? जैसे the question is analyze Marxian conception of historical materialism as a critic of Hegelian dialectics. Analyze Marxian conception of historical materialism as a critic of हेगेलियन डायलेक्टिक्स, कितना स्टिमुलाई है इसमें? हेगेलियन डायलेक्टिक्स एंड मार्क्सियन conception of historical materialism. So your response would be on these two, isn't it? Getting your point? You will prioritize first describing 20 marker question, long question है. So first describing Hegelian notion of history and his dialectical idealism. Dialectical idealism में आ जाएगा notion of history, and then Marxian conception of historical materialism, right, as a reformation to Hegelian dialectical idealism, isn't it? So your response would be balanced actually, है ना? Taking into account the stimuli. ऐसा नहीं कि हीगल को एक लाइन में लिख दिया और मार्क्स बाबा को पूरा एकदम, है ना, जेएनयू बना दिया, right? ऐसा नहीं, right? You have to balance. Your response should be there on stimuli. So always, while doing revision, refer to PYQs and try to mark the stimuli, the dimensions of the question. It's very simple to do. It's not that difficult. It's very simple to do, है ना? According to Marx, how human beings are alienated from human potential and what does he suggest to change this? So, एक stimuli हो गया इसमें क्या? Human potential. एक stimuli हो गया how human beings are alienated, and third stimuli हो गया what does he suggest to change this? Getting your point? And question is 10 marker, मतलब 150 words. So just 4 paragraphs, and direct to the point, frame of knowledge without going deep into knowledge will work here. Deep into knowledge नहीं जाना है, 10 markers है. You have to give a good frame, and for that purpose, as per the stimuli of the question, you have to give your response, isn't it? Dimensions के ऊपर response देना है. Human potential, अगर heading देकर लिखने का मन है तो heading दे दो. Define alienation, then define directly human potential according to Marx is this, है ना? And humans are alienated from this very basic potential because of this, है ना? ये no control over the force of production, right? No control over the product, his self, human nature and the society, and so he is alienated, right? And what does he suggest? तो revolution, है ना? Socialism, कितना simple है. अब क्वेश्चन के ट्रैप में जाओगे ना तो फिर मुश्किल होगा. क्वेश्चन तो ऐसा होगा, है ना? उधर यूपीएससी क्या करता है? पूरा जाल बिछाता है, बट आपको जाने का नहीं, राइट? जाल में ट्रैप होने का नहीं, है ना? यू हैव टू ऑब्जेक्टिवली mark the stimuli and give your response, right? Simple, it's very simple. So this is in general studies also, मैंने शायद लेकर आया था GS का, मतलब इस पे, because this year I have reviewed more than 100 questions in past 10 days of GS of my students who could not perform well in GS, है ना? और एक like a common thing I have found, yesterday also Akash 370, he came up with 4 answers, 1 GS 1, 2, 3, 4, and one very common problem is misinterpretation of the question, and that misinterpretation because of not counting on the stimuli. So आपको कभी भी जैसे practice भी करो ना तो एकदम mark करो कि these are the dimension. I have to just focus on these dimension. मेरे को model answer पे नहीं focus करना है. मेरे को जितना मैंने पढ़ा है वो नहीं. Whatever is contextual on the basis of interpretation, that I will directly target, isn't it? जैसे क्वेश्चन है रॉक कट, सॉरी सोशियोलॉजी है, जीएस पे चले जा रहे हैं क्योंकि अभी डिस्कस कर रहा था स्टूडेंट्स है ना, इसलिए. द रॉक कट आर्किटेक्चर रिप्रेजेंट्स वन ऑफ द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट सोर्सेस ऑफ नॉलेज ऑफ अर्ली इंडियन आर्ट एंड हिस्ट्री. सो रॉक कट आर्किटेक्चर, दिस इज वन स्टिमुलाई. So you must be aware of rock cut architecture 1, rock cut architecture 2, rock cut architecture 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, ऐसा listing करना है. And one of the most important source of knowledge of early Indian art and history. So rock cut architecture and early Indian art and that historical phase, right? Early Indian art, in particular historical phase, isn't it? So counting on stimuli is important, to be contextual, to write contextually, है ना? कितना देखो क्वेश्चन है कि पर्शियन लिटरेरी सोर्सेस ऑफ मिडिवल इंडिया रिफ्लेक्ट द स्पिरिट ऑफ द एज. कमेंट. पर्शियन लिटरेरी सोर्सेस. तो अब इसमें क्या होगा, बहुत बच्चों को देखा एनालिटिकल हो गए, एनालिसिस, पूरा इमोशन अपना दे दिया, भक्ति मूवमेंट, सूफी मूवमेंट पे मूवमेंट, इमोशनल हो गए, बस केवल ये देखा पर्शियन लिटरेरी सोर्सेस एंड बिकेम इमोशनल. मिडिवल पीरियड देखा इमोशनल. अरे यू हैव टू लिस्ट, you have to discuss, isn't it? You have to list, कि how Persian literary sources reflect the spirit of age. So Persian literary source 1 and the spirit of age. Source 2, spirit of age. Source 3, spirit of age. Spirit of age क्या था? Compositiveness, unity in diversity, synthetic culture. So one particular source, and this is the aspect of, synthesis, culture, composite culture, isn't it? So getting a point. Factual listing is important. But what happens, अब इसमें stimuli है कि person literary source and the spirit of age, isn't it? Spirit of age. अगर इस stimuli को mark नहीं करोगे तो बहुत ज़्यादा spirit of age पे लिख दिया और literary source gone and so marks gone. Because art and culture history का part है, you have to be historical, isn't it? So this is. So stimuli का interpretation, this is also very important, है ना? Okay. And look, in most of the questions, in most of the question, you will have, some scope to relate it to the contemporary. In most of the question, contemporary से relate करने का scope होगा. Even in paper 1, you will have a scope to relate it to Indian society. In Indian society, you will have a scope to relate it to paper 1, isn't it? So that also you have to keep in mind. उसको भी ध्यान रखना है. अपने interpretation में दिमाग को Indian society पे ले जाना है. And Indian society में not only we have paper 2, but we also have paper 1 to 3 of GS. That is also Indian society. That is also about Indian society, isn't it? Right. So from there also you have to. Okay. So this is objective answering of how to interpret the question to write good answer, isn't it? Keywords, एक list मैं दे दूंगा, वो list भी ले लेना, लेकिन apart from interpreting those keywords like discuss, critically examine, examine, you have to also interpret the question, scope of the question on the basis of the stimuli. Your response must be objective on the stimuli, isn't it? The dimensions, right? Okay. Okay, so next is current affairs in sociology, Boon or Bane? Myth or reality, है ना? Look, ये क्वेश्चन बहुत आता है मेरे सामने ना, मतलब स्टूडेंट डिस्कस करते रहेगा, अचानक मन में लड्डू फूटे, सर करंट अफेयर्स, करंट सोशियोलॉजी. तो look, this year also, I will not name those students, क्योंकि अच्छा नहीं लगा उन्हें. But there were students, who very enthusiastically used to write the current affairs, compromising with the conceptual strands and theoretical strands, isn't it? Strands of perspective of Indian sociologists, right? In answers of paper 1 as well as paper 2. Paper 2 may you have to use the perspective, strands of the perspective of Indian sociologists, isn't it? Like M.N. Srinivas, A.R. Desai, G.S. Ghoriye, Andre Bete, है ना, Yogendra Singh, etc. Right? In paper 1, we have to use the theoretical strand, thinkers, the perspectives, isn't it? In paper 2 also, we have to use the terms, isn't it? Theoretical terms, conceptual terms for paper 1, isn't it? To make our answer sociological in paper 2, to give sociological coloration to your answers of paper 2. Simple terms may, you have to Indianize paper 1 with the facts and references along with the concepts and theories, right? Some contemporary facts, isn't it? Some contemporary facts from Indian society in paper 2. And in paper 2, you have to westernize, you have to use terms and concepts from paper 1 thinkers to give sociological coloration, otherwise it would be more like GS answer, you know, it would be like very generalist answer. है ना? In paper 2 you have to bring perspectives also, perspective of Indian sociologist. ये मैं बताता रहता हूँ, क्या पटेल जी लास्ट में बताया था ये करने के लिए, लेकिन होता क्या है ना, लास्ट मोमेंट में चूंकि हम बहुत ज़्यादा करंट अफेयर से स्टडी करने लगते हैं, है ना, ऊपर से इन यूट्यूब वीडियो चैनल्स पे बहुत ज़्यादा करंट अफेयर्स सोशियोलॉजी का अवेलेबिलिटी होता है ना, और टॉपर्स ऑल्सो यू नो एट टाइम्स जनरलाइज, उन्होंने लिखा होगा एक आंसर में कोई फैक्ट और दे जनरलाइज, यू नो कि आई हैड गिवन सच रेफरेंस, I had used these current affairs, and that becomes, you know, kind of universal suggestion, isn't it? उसको एक क्वेश्चन में लिखा लेकिन वो क्या हो जाता है, that becomes, you know, ultimate suggestion, isn't it? तो इसको कंट्रोल करना है. Last year many students, you know, used to write 2-3 paragraphs of current affairs, और मैंने continuously उनको सजेस्ट किया कि your answer should be sociological, right? Not current affairs. You are highlighting the issues, you are giving the suggestion over issues. As a reformer, right? You have reformist orientation. You should have conceptual theoretical orientation. उनको लगता था कि वो बहुत डायनामाइट आंसर लिख रहे हैं, डायनामिक लिख रहे हैं, है ना, तो मार्क्स नहीं आया, 97, 87 ऐसे भी मार्क्स आ गए हैं बाय डिफॉल्ट कुछ स्टूडेंट्स को. Some students were, you know, theoretical, conceptual, but failed to bring, you know, the balance, particularly that novelty aspect by doing backward, forward, you know, conceptual, theoretical, you know, correlations, isn't it? Anyways, when it comes to current affairs, look, the right usage is contemporary affair. In sociology, you have to use contemporary affairs, and that contemporary affair you study in post-independence history, yes or no? Post-independent history. And in fact मेरा तो सजेशन ये होता है, चूंकि कोचिंग आपको पढ़ाता नहीं है पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंट हिस्ट्री इन डिटेल, टू ऐड वैल्यू इन ऑल जनरल स्टडीज पेपर एज वेल एज योर ऑप्शनल पेपर, चाहे वो ऑप्शनल पब-एड हो, सोशियोलॉजी हो, पॉलिटिकल साइंस हो, यू शुड बी वेरी गुड इन पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंट हिस्ट्री. पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंट हिस्ट्री से क्या होता है, वैल्यू एडिशन, इजंट इट? वैल्यू एडिशन, गवर्नेंस का हिस्ट्री, राइट, लेजिस्लेशंस का हिस्ट्री, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल डेवलपमेंट्स का हिस्ट्री, इजंट इट? कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के एप्लीकेशन का हिस्ट्री, ट्राइबल डेवलपमेंट, वुमेन डेवलपमेंट, इजंट इट? प्लानिंग हिस्ट्री, है ना, all these are there in post independent history ना. इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन का हिस्ट्री, अर्बनाइजेशन का हिस्ट्री, JNURM to a smart city, JNURM now history, post independent history, isn't it? ट्राइबल सब प्लान पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंट हिस्ट्री का पार्ट है. सो दैट एड्स वैल्यू, सोशियोलॉजी में भी उसका वैल्यू एडिशन है. सो कंटेम्पररी अफेयर, पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंट हिस्ट्री कम्स अंडर कंटेम्पररी अफेयर्स, इजंट इट? कंटेम्पररी रेफरेंसेस यू हैव टू गिव. लुक, contemporary affairs you have to write, है ना. Some aspects of current facts also you have to write. Some aspects, policy aspect, programs, policies, है ना. ऐसा नहीं लिखेंगे कि यहाँ पे बिहार के एक विलेज में, महाराष्ट्र के एक गांव में ऐसी कहानी हो गई, है ना, because that would not be validated by the evaluator, isn't it? Getting your point? जैसे पटेल जी उस दिन एग्जाम्पल दिया था मैंने लैंड रिफॉर्म का, है ना. सपोज कि लैंड रिफॉर्म पे एनी आंसर यू हैव टू राइट. सो लैंड रिफॉर्म पे क्या, व्हेन यू हैव टू राइट सम आंसर ऑन लैंड रिफॉर्म, इट्स अ टॉपिक इन पेपर 2, सो यू विल रिफ्लेक्ट ऑन योर नॉलेज मैट्रिक्स, एंड द नॉलेज मैट्रिक्स ऑफ लैंड रिफॉर्म इंक्लूड द फर्स्ट, व्हाट इज लैंड रिफॉर्म, सेकेंड, ऑब्जेक्टिव्स ऑफ लैंड रिफॉर्म, थर्ड, फॉर्म्स ऑफ लैंड रिफॉर्m, fourth, success failure analysis. In success failure analysis we will try to borrow the terms from paper 1. Paper 2 में land reform है ना, paper 1 से terms we will borrow, right? Functionalist perspective, functional analysis, right? Dysfunctions of land reform for women, for small and marginal farmers, for agricultural laborers. Dysfunction for subaltern groups, isn't it? Getting your point? है ना? Some perspectives, Andre Bete on land reform, right? TK Women on land reform. Some perspective, even if you don't recall their name, just write perspective. है ना? कि उनका viewpoint क्या था? Right? Because that is generalized. And lastly, as a corrective measures, government recently, or many initiative has been taken recently in Indian society, like Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, National Food Security Mission, 2 more crop per drop, soil testing labs. All these are oriented towards improvement in land system, and that is what land reform is about. Improvement in land system in broad sense. So केवल reference last में आएगा, the policies and programs. The programs and policies which are generalized, right? Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana initiated second green revolution in underdeveloped regions of Bihar, West Bengal, Odisha, because government extended autonomy to the state to make policies as per local geographical condition under RKVY, है ना? And these state developed, right, in production and productivity. तो ये भी लैंड रिफॉर्म है. एक्सटेंशन जो ग्रीन रिवोल्यूशन था वो भी लैंड रिफॉर्म था. क्या रिजल्ट? न्यू एग्रेरियन स्ट्रेटजी, isn't it? So contemporary, some current, lastly in one paragraph, isn't it? Getting your point? ये नहीं लिख देंगे कि रिसेंटली, मतलब इंट्रोडक्शन में टॉपर ने कहा था करंट से रिलेट करना है, करंट ओरिएंटेड होना है. सो इन द बिगिनिंग, बिफोर डिफाइनिंग व्हाट इज लैंड रिफॉर्म, पहला सेंटेंस, रिसेंटली स्वामित्व स्कीम was initiated by our beloved Prime Minister at this place. मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि स्वामित्व स्कीम, लैंड रिफॉर्म इज इक्वल टू स्वामित्व स्कीम, है ना? जैसे पेपर 3 इज इक्वल टू नीति आयोग का रिपोर्ट, है ना? जबरदस्ती कुछ भी हो, नीति आयोग का रिपोर्ट लिख दो, वर्ल्ड बैंक का रिपोर्ट लिख दो. अरे जबरदस्ती का क्या लिखना, है ना? वैसा नहीं, वैसा सोशियोलॉजी में नहीं, राइट? Every topic has its own dimensions, and those dimensions make up the knowledge matrix of that topic. You have to use that matrix, you have to reflect on that, isn't it? And you have to relate it with some contemporary, some current facts, isn't it? Then in such way, current affairs or contemporary affairs would be a boon. Otherwise, अगर एडिक्शन हो गया करंट अफेयर्स का, चूंकि फ्री में मिलता है, जो फ्री में मिलता है उसका एडिक्शन हो जाता है, तो फिर प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा, फिर प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा, है ना? गेटिंग योर पॉइंट? क्वेश्चन आया था ज्योग्राफी में, जीएस में एक क्वेश्चन था रिलेटेड टू डिप्लीशन ऑफ हिमालयन ग्लेशियर्स. 2020 का क्वेश्चन था. तिवारी जी लिखा था 20 में आपने ना, डिप्लीशन ऑफ हिमालयन ग्लेशियर्स एंड इट्स इंपैक्ट ऑन वाटर रिसोर्सेस इन इंडिया. अभी मैंने वो क्वेश्चन दिया था, मेनी स्टूडेंट्स, दोज हु केम कि सर लास्ट ईयर स्कोर कम रहा, जीएस में कम हो गया ये. मोस्ट ऑफ द स्टूडेंट रोड डिप्लीशन ऑफ ग्लेशियर्स एंड इट्स इंपैक्ट ऑन इंडिया, जबकि क्वेश्चन का कॉन्टेक्स्ट वाज वाटर रिसोर्सेस ऑफ इंडिया. अच्छा, दैट क्वेश्चन वाज आस्क्ड इन कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ दैट blast in some glacier and destruction of that hydropower project in Uttarakhand, right? So that was the context. But while writing the answer, since question is about depletion of Himalayan glaciers, so glaciers का range कहाँ से है? पूरा कश्मीर से लेकर नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न स्टेट तक, है ना? नॉर्थ ईस्ट तक. So Himalayan glacier 1, 2, 3, 4 resources and water resources, quality and quantity of water, isn't it? And one current fact would be recently the hydropower project, isn't it, was destroyed because of glacial blast, isn't it? एक पैराग्राफ आएगा मैन contemporary current affairs का, not the ultimate, not the absolute answer, would be written on the basis of current affairs. So ऐसा नहीं, otherwise फिर मिस आउट हो जाएगा, मार्क्स नहीं आएगा, है ना? So current affairs is a boon if you limit it to one paragraph, particularly the second last or last paragraph, and if you think in a structural terms, institutional terms, isn't it, in terms of a structure, institution, कि polity, governance, government has initiated this policy for land reform. Institutional terms में, isn't it? ये नहीं कि डेली न्यूज में आ रहा है, एक चैनल है द बेटर प्रैक्टिसेस, द बेटर इंडिया, एंड दैट शोज द बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस फ्रॉम इंडिया, तो बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस लिख दिया उधर. योजना में आता है बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस इन इंडिया, मुझे कॉल करके पूछना होता है कहां से लिखे हो, क्या मतलब इसका. ऐसा नहीं, इवैल्यूएटर नहीं कॉल करेगा ना आपको, है ना. तो ऐसा नहीं, बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस नहीं, दैट इज फ्लोटिंग फैक्ट एक्चुअली, राइट. यू हैव टू गिव इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज्ड references, structural references in your answer of sociology. Sociology is systematic and scientific study of society, and society consists of structure, system and right phenomena. Phenomena has meaning and orientation. तो इसके term में भी have to answer, right, structural term में, institutional term में, right. So this is okay. So this question answered, right. Current affairs sociology, Boon or Bane, myth or reality, right. Okay. How to make sociology answer more applied in nature? एक common question collect किया था जो कि students सभी पूछ रहे थे ना. So this is common question which I am answering. So एक question है how to make sociology answers more applied in nature. तो yes, look, to fetch good score you have to make sociology answers more applied. Means you have to write applied sociology. You have to write applied sociology in both optional paper 1 as well as paper 2, दोनों में अप्लाइड सोशियोलॉजी लिखना है ना. तो कैसे बनाएंगे पटेल साहब? हाउ विल यू मेक योर आंसर्स मोर अप्लाइड? कैसे? डोंट यूज दिस टर्म डायनामिक, आई हेट दिस टर्म एक्चुअली. मतलब इतना बच्चे बोलते हैं ना डायनामिक डायनामिक, एंड व्हेन आई आस्क व्हाट इज डायनामिक, सर मेरे दोस्त ने बोला था सर कि डायनामिक क्वेश्चन था. अरे डायनामिक, डायनामिक, डायनामाइट, दीज आर ऑल इंटरनेट, टेलीग्राम, व्हाट्सएप का जुमला एक्चुअली, है ना. अदरवाइज इन मोस्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस and its answers, you have to balance static and dynamic. UPSC has never used this term current affairs in mains syllabus. Use किया है क्या? नहीं ना. But the scope of the topic, includes the concepts and facts in GS, and facts are static as well as dynamic, as well as current, contemporary, dynamic. तो static and dynamic दोनों होगा. वो आपका चॉइस होता है कि आप ज्यादा डायनामाइट में चले जाते हैं, ब्लास्ट करने लगते हैं, तो प्रॉब्लम आ जाता है एग्जामिनर को, है ना, है ना. बैलेंस करना है, राइट. तो यस, लुक, टू मेक सोशियोलॉजिकल आंसर अप्लाइड इन नेचर, यू हैव टू डू yes more and more correlations and cross fertilizations, more and more correlation, like paper 1 correlation with paper 2, right. paper 2 correlation with paper 1, paper 2 को correlate करेंगे paper 1 से, paper 1 को correlate करेंगे paper 2 से. And look, you should do some homework on your study table. लाइब्रेरी टेबल पे नहीं होगा ये. आप कर रहे होगे, बाजू में आके दोस्त आपको डिस्टर्ब कर देगा, है ना. आपका अटेंशन डेविएट हो जाएगा, अटेंशन स्पैन कम होगा. इसको करने के लिए स्टडी टेबल, राइट, स्टडी रूम घर पे, स्टडी टेबल पे बैकवर्ड फॉरवर्ड लिंकेजेज, राइट. डेडिकेट 1 or 2 days and think over which topic of paper 1 is related to topics of paper 2, right. Which topic of paper 2 related conceptually theoretically to paper 1. लिस्ट बनाओ इसका, मैं भी बनाकर दूंगा आपको, लेकिन आई वांट यू टू डू योरसेल्फ सो दैट यहाँ पे ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग हो, यहाँ पे टेंशन क्रिएट हो और याद रहे, है ना, है ना. दिस इज एक्टिविटी पार्ट एक्चुअली, यू हैव टू डू. एक्टिविटी इज ऑल्सो पार्ट ऑफ प्रिपरेशन, है ना. सो बैकवर्ड फॉरवर्ड लिंकेजेज यू हैव टू डू, राइट. पेपर 1 का पेपर 2 के साथ, राइट. पेपर 2 का पेपर 1 के साथ, isn't it, right. And you have to correlate both the paper 1 and paper 2 with the syllabus of GS 1 to 3. You have to have mental readiness for borrowings from paper 1, मेंटल रेडीनेस रखो बोरोइंग्स के लिए पेपर 1 से, जीएस पेपर से, isn't it? In paper 1 and paper 2 have mental readiness for borrowings from GS 1 to 3. GS 1 to 3 में क्या है? Facts. We have to borrow the facts, isn't it? वहाँ से fact borrow करेंगे. Then our answer would be more applied, isn't it? Our answer would be more applied without compromising with the concepts and theories, isn't it? In paper 1 and without compromising with the facts in paper 2, social facts of India. इंडियन सोसाइटी में आपका हेडिंग क्या है पेपर 2 का? इंडियन सोशल स्ट्रक्चर, इंडियन सोसाइटी सोशल स्ट्रक्चर एंड चेंज. दिस इज द हेडिंग ना, इंडियन सोसाइटी सोशल स्ट्रक्चर. तो स्ट्रक्चर और फैक्ट्स, सोशल फैक्ट्स, फैमिली, इकोनॉमी, पॉलिटी, ऑल सोशल फैक्ट्स, इजंट इट? एंड चेंज इन सोशल फैक्ट, चेंज इन सोशल फैक्ट्स. सो without compromising the Indian social facts, isn't it? The facts related to, colonial period to post-independent, without compromising those facts, you have to borrow the concepts, the theoretical strands from paper 1, and you have to use that along with the social facts of India. Social facts of India के साथ उसको use करना है, isn't it? और इसके लिए थोड़ा सा reflective brainstorming and रिफ्लेक्शन प्रैक्टिस करिए, है ना, घर पे बैठ के कि ये सुटेबल है ना. जहाँ पे डाउट होगा आस्क टू मी कि वेदर दिस इज रिलेटेबल और नॉट, इजंट इट, है ना. उसी तरह पेपर 1 में विदाउट कॉम्प्रोमाइजिंग विद द कॉन्सेप्चुअल थियोरेटिकल स्ट्रैंड्स ऑफ पेपर 1, यूनिट 4 थिंकर्स, इजंट इट. देन वर्क एंड इकोनॉमिक लाइफ, पॉलिटिक्स एंड सोसाइटी, राइट, किनशिप सिस्टम्स, रिलीजन एंड सोसाइटी, विदाउट कॉम्प्रोमाइजिंग द कॉन्सेप्ट्स एंड थियरीज related to the facts. एक क्वेश्चन था, वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन, आस्क्ड लास्ट ईयर. जिसमें पेपर 1 में I said that you have to, without compromising with the concepts and theoretical strands of paper 1, you have to write facts from Indian society. Yes. Is religious revivalism is antithetical to secularization. Religious revivalism antithetical to secularization, isn't it? So religious revivalism one stimuli, secularization other, isn't it? So religious revivalism, we will define religious revivalism, we will define secularization, and we will take a stand. Okay, no, religious revivalism not antithetical to secularization. If these two would have been antithetical to each other, these would not have been mentioned in syllabus together. Yes or no? Syllabus में पढ़ना है हमें, and both are visible in society, religious revivalism as well as secularization, isn't it? So that is sufficient, tourists to take this stand, कि yes, religious revivalism is not antithetical to secularization. For that, what we will do? We will take help of, theoretical perspective, thinkers, isn't it? We will highlight functions of religion in the modern secular society, isn't it? Emile Durkheim, functions of religion, right? Malinowski, functions of religion. Radcliffe Brown, functions of religion. Parson, function of religion. Davis and Moore का भी point आता है, functions of religion. Then some references from Indian society, right? Theoretical हो गया? Yes. हाँ, that is, I am coming ना, second length जो होगा उसमें we will refer to Indian society. It's not, religious revivalism is not antithetical to secularization. In modern society, religious cults and sects contributing to the process of secularization, right, are functioning in secular domain. For example, Patanjali cult, functional for wellness, right, and health. यस और नो? कोरोना किट किसने बनाया? राइट? एंड रियली मतलब जो भी हो, रामदेव जी जैसे भी हो, है ना, चाहे जितना बैंकों का पैसा उन्होंने इधर उधर कर दिया हो, बट सेकेंड वेव में जो मेरे को कोविड हुआ, सो आई रिलाइड हेवली ऑन, and yes, that was effective also, right? For me it was. So health and wellness, yoga, isn't it? Then Isha Foundation, वो भी तो health and wellness को promote कर रहा है, isn't it? We will write the name. Many religious trusts are running super speciality hospitals, religious trusts, running educational institutions, schools, colleges, engineering colleges, medical colleges, isn't it? Guru Sri Ram Medical College by Sri Ram Trust, right? So these are the contributions, है ना? Further contributions, like today religious institution organizations also promoting peace and solidarity, isn't it? Not only in public sphere but in family sphere also. Dispute resolution के लिए families भी जाता है ना बाबा के पास, निर्मल बाबा के पास, है ना? So like in different aspects, cleanliness, sanitation. अभी राजेंद्र नगर में आज देखा न्यू आरएन में 2 VIP, super VIP कोचेज, AC कोचेज, पूरा उसमें बेड वेड भी लगा है, जैसे मैं रुक के देखा कि क्या मतलब थोड़ा फ्यूचर प्लानिंग तो, एंड उसके ऊपर क्या लिखा हुआ? वर्ल्ड इन्वायरमेंट प्रोटेक्शन महायज्ञ, वर्ल्ड इन्वायरमेंट प्रोटेक्शन महायज्ञ, राइट? सपोर्टेड बाय मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फॉरेस्ट एंड एनवायरनमेंट, this. सो रिलीजन, ईसा फाउंडेशन, मूवमेंट फॉर सॉइल करते हैं ना, मूवमेंट फॉर वाटर, isn't it? सो ये फैक्ट लिखो ये फैक्ट्स, isn't it? This is applied sociology. This is called applied sociology, isn't it? Applying, our knowledge, counting on the functions of religion, religious revivalism in a secular society, isn't it? Getting your point? Education is a means to promote secularization, yes or no? So starting from Raja Ramon Rai to many, others, many, sect and cult organizations have promoted education or not? Education का promotion हुआ है ना, religious organizations ने किया है ना, मदरसा education, गुरुद्वाराज, isn't it? Food security is a secular domain of the state and can be denied gurudwaras का contribution in food security, right? Rehabilitation में gurudwaras have played important role. Khalsa, international rehabilitation of flood affected people in Bihar, rehabilitation of Rohingyas, rehabilitation of Bangladeshis during flood, yes or no? In Afghanistan, rehabilitation. So this is, religious revivalism is not antithetical to secularization. Religion is reviving in Khalsa Panth or not? Through Khalsa Panth or not? New institution, new cult organization, isn't it? So this is. So this is, you have to apply. This is how you apply. Yes. अभी lastly, we will थोड़ा याद कर लेंगे आर.के. मर्टन को, है ना? आर.के. मर्टन को कि in modern complex society, right, secular society, because of diversity of interests, at times, right, religious revivalism leads to conflict also. Extreme consciousness of religion in form of communism, fundamentalism has been dysfunctional for society too, for the polity, for economy, for education too, isn't it? So यहाँ पे क्या होता है? Antithetical, बस, right? Yes. So this is. इधर भी एग्जाम्पल दे सकते हैं, है ना? बहुत सारा पॉइंट आ सकता है. Here we are not discussing the topic, we are discussing, application. कि this is how we apply. This is how we apply. Yes. Look. Data. We have to focus on facts. डेटा तो जहां पे इकोनॉमी है, पेपर 3 में कहते हैं कि इकोनॉमी में डेटा फैक्ट लिखना है, वहां भी डेटा फैक्ट लिखकर 70 मार्क्स आ रहा है. तो सोशियोलॉजी में हम डेटा क्यों? डेटा मीन्स व्हाट? दिस सेंसस डेटा एक्सेट्रा? नो, हार्डली मैटर्स. In sociology, we study trend, structural trends, institutional trends, changes, contemporary trends maximum, isn't it? ये नहीं लिखेंगे कि 5% of Indians are living in live-in relationships. ऐसा नहीं. Right? In Indian society, the contemporary trend towards live-in relationship is increasing. Bas, that is suffice. Not relevant. Not relevant. Not that relevant. If you don't mention even those micro data, because reviewer, evaluator will hardly be aware of those data. Trend लिख देंगे, isn't it? कुछ जो generalized data है, जो कि दिख सकता है उसको. For example, if you are writing कि 16-17% only women are working in non-agriculture sector, others are domesticated, so he can reflect कि yes, this is. Getting your point? He might authenticate that, isn't it? So this is, right? So structural facts, institutional facts, isn't it, about India, and correlation with the concepts and theories, theoretical terms from paper 1 perspective, that is important in paper 2, right? In paper 1, concepts, theoretical strands, thinkers, and facts from India, right? This is how we make our answer applied, right? ऐसे applied बनाते हैं, है ना? वो sense दे रहा है ना सचिन? Even that in modernity का question also we could have written, 1 point from India, है ना? कि not only in Europe, such modern, or the features of modernity were there in Indian society before Enlightenment and Renaissance, isn't it? So this is how we make our answers applied, right? More questions I will discuss, more example I will give, in course of time, है ना? Application का. But yes, I can assure you कि in most of the topics, subtopics of paper 1, you can write something about Indian social structural facts. Social structural facts or changes in the structural, social structural facts. आप लिख सकते हैं, है ना? Getting your point? Yes. Yes. How to optimize? एक क्वेश्चन आता है, how to optimize usage of knowledge matrix. How to optimize the usage of knowledge matrix. मतलब आपका knowledge. Look, performance in exam all depends on your reflections of what you have studied in examination hall. If you are efficiently reflecting on the knowledge matrix that you have prepared in your notes, you will find quicker solution of the problems, otherwise not. Simple. है ना? Simple. And to increase the efficiency of reflection, है ना? Reflection in examination hall, as I suggested, you have to do listing of the terms and concepts, isn't it? But without being rigid. Ki yes, like suppose you listed, terms and concepts of Karl Marx, right? In thinkers, during your revision of thinkers unit. But be flexible. Try to add some points, as you move ahead, revision of other units of paper 1 as well as paper 2. Be flexible and always try to optimize that, isn't it? This is what I call, pencil canvas, approach. Pencil canvas approach. In pencil canvas approach, you can rub and write something. You can rub and write something. You can draw something. Then paint brush approach. आपको GS में क्या करते हैं लोग? Paint brush approach. This is the question. This is the model answer. Right? Evaluator also give marks on the basis of model answer, and you are told कि बस यही लिखना है, यही अंतिम सत्य है ना? But it is not like that, right? That question is not going to be repeated again in main exam, isn't it? In sociology, there are all chances that questions will be repeated. 90% of the questions are repeated generally, what we did discuss in test, we ask in test, right? But here too I say, कि you adopt pencil canvas approach, isn't it? Do good listing while revising the topics, listing, and always update your list of dimensions by borrowing, something from other units. Do forward linkage as well as backward. As you move ahead, do backward linkage. As you revise, initial units, do forward linkage. Paper 1 ka paper 2 se linkage, isn't it? Just one liner, two liner addition in your list of dimensions. In your list of dimension, one liner, two liner, without being rigid, कि नहीं यही लिखना है. No, you have to use that matrix as per the context, as per the scope, as per the demand of the question. As per demand of the question, you have to use that matrix, that knowledge matrix. Getting your point, है ना? So listing, ये जो question है ना कि how to optimize knowledge matrix, usage of knowledge, how to optimize. So that optimization will depend on your work on your study table, right? You will get competitive A's by writing something different, something extra from others than other, competitors, only if you are able to reflect. And for that purpose, you have to make your revisionary note more concise and precise. And this is antithetical to coaching का orientation. Coaching का orientation is maximization, है ना? कोचिंग का ओरिएंटेशन क्या है? मैक्सिमाइज करना, क्योंकि भाई बिजनेस है, बिजनेस में जो ज्यादा बेचता है उसको ज्यादा पैसा आता है ना? तो जो ज्यादा कंटेंट देता है उसको ज्यादा लोग जाते हैं, सिंपल सी बात है, isn't it? राइट? तो उसका ओरिएंटेशन है मैक्सिमाइजेशन. उस मैक्सिमाइजेशन में बुक शॉप का भी बिजनेस है ना? टेलीग्राम का भी बिजनेस है, सबका बिजनेस उसमें है मैक्सिमाइजेशन में. लेकिन फॉर योर परफॉर्मेंस इन एग्जाम, राइट, your interest should be on making things more concise and precise, limiting yourself to your knowledge matrix, updating, optimizing your list of dimensions, your knowledge matrix, and revising the same time and again, and being flexible. Don't adopt paint brush approach कि एक बार पेंट कर दिया बस कर दिया हो गया, नहीं. Pencil canvas approach कि as per context demand of the question I will alter, I will do some modification in my knowledge matrix related to the topic for writing answers. This is. Those who make things more and concise and precise over the period of time, by the time you appear in exam, they are good performers in exam situation, isn't it? Human mind has limitation. You can exploit yourself, you can force your mind to work as per the test schedule here, isn't it? है ना? मॉडल आंसर रटना है, ये किताब पढ़ना है, इसेंशियल्स, नॉन इसेंशियल्स, एवरीथिंग, राइट? एग्जामिनेशन हॉल में माइंड कहेगा नहीं, अब नहीं, बस नहीं याद करूंगा, क्या कर लोगे? राइट? प्लीज ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड, योर माइंड इज नॉट देयर इन योर ब्रेन, कि ब्रेन का आप यूज कर रहे हैं, रात में 2:30 तक लगे हुए हैं इधर, अच्छा ये चैनल, वो चैनल, ये चैनल, यहां ज्ञान, वहां. अब ब्रेन का यूज कर रहे हैं, माइंड का नहीं. माइंड इज देयर इन योर कॉन्सियसनेस, माइंड आपकी कॉन्सियसनेस में होता है ना? एंड व्हेन यू गो फॉर ओवर रीडिंग, ओवर थिंकिंग, you crush, you kill your consciousness. You don't develop, thinking ability. You don't have, thought ideas on particular topic, right? So don't overread things. Limit yourself to the concise, precise notes, so that could be inculcated, internalized in your consciousness, and that you could reflect in examination hall. है ना? Getting your point? If you recall things, you will write, you will solve the problem. If you fail to reflect and recall, you will not solve the problem. All methods of elimination will fail there, right? So इसलिए, this is getting your point. So I hope you got how to optimize your knowledge, your matrix usage of knowledge in examination hall, isn't it? वो examination hall में जो भी होगा, that will depend on how you are behaving before going to exam on your study table, right? ठीक है, लाइब्रेरी में educative recreation बहुत हो गया. Those who are writing mains and seriously writing mains, so please spend good hours back home in your room isn't it? है ना? और स्टडी टेबल पे, है ना, अपने इसको जो है ना, माइंड के जो स्पैन है ना, उसको लिमिट करो थोड़ा, है ना. एक तो मूविंग मीडियम से थोड़ा सा डिस्टेंस बनाओ. मूविंग मीडियम, यू नो, डिस्टेबलाइज योर थिंकिंग एबिलिटी. मूविंग मीडियम, टेलीग्राम, व्हाट्सएप, सोशल मीडिया, फेसबुक एंड ऑल, फॉर जस्ट 3 months उसको अवॉइड करो, isn't it? दूसरा, you know, in offline sources also we have moving medium, libraries, isn't it? One student, second, third, fourth, अभी एक स्टोरी खत्म नहीं हुआ कि सेकंड स्टोरी. ऐसा लग रहा है कि आईएएस करने के लिए चाय बेचना बहुत जरूरी है. चाय बेचने वाला ही आईएएस बन सकता है. स्टेशन पे काम करने वाला, ड्राइवर, ये सब कहां से मिल रहा है इंफॉर्मेशन? सोशल मीडिया, सोशल मीडिया, राइट. डिस्कशंस में भी, लाइब्रेरीज में, क्लास के बाहर डिस्कशंस में, है ना. तो हम दूसरों की कहानी सुनेंगे तो अपनी कहानी कभी नहीं लिख पाएंगे, है ना. इसलिए टू राइट योर ओन स्टोरी, जस्ट लिमिट योर सेल्फ टू योर स्टडीज. ट्राई टू डू अवे विद ऑल दीज मूविंग मीडियम्स, सोशल मीडिया और दीज लाइब्रेरीज, द मार्केट्स एक्सेट्रा. फोकस करिए, तभी आपका ये रिफ्लेक्टिव एबिलिटी इंप्रूव होगा, isn't it? And daily basis पे, those who are writing mains, you know, at least 1 or 2 hours spend on thinking, right? Take this, you know, trend analysis, right? I can assure you, again, 90% question would be from core topics and semi-peripheral topic. Core topic and semi-peripheral topics. Peripheral topics, you can just read once. After that, you will be able to manage with core topics and semi-peripheral topics, isn't it? Which I have mentioned in this trend analysis. At least 1 or 2 hour brainstorming. Just say you have revised, suppose unit 4. So take this before going to bed, take this and brainstorm. Brainstorm. Take the problem. है ना? Problem is non-positivist methodology scientific? Is non-positivist methodology scientific? What is non-positivist? What are their theoretical, you know, strands? Okay. Non-positivist, interpretivist, interpret, meaning, orientation, right? Getting your point? Max Weber. Think, just keep thinking, है ना? At least 1 hour, then 2 hours, lastly 3 hours, because in exam for 3 hours you have to think and write. You have to think and write, isn't it? So do practice, you know, to keep away from the readings and just thinking over the problem, to find the solution of that problem, right? So this is, बस ज़्यादा ज्ञान की बात होगी तो मैं हो जाऊंगा दिव्य ज्ञानी, है ना. एंड दिव्य ज्ञानियों ने कमाल कर रखा है. सो आई डोंट वांट टू बी इन दैट क्लब ऑफ दिव्य ज्ञानी, है ना, क्योंकि उतना एस्पिरेशन भी नहीं है कि पूरा मेट्रो ही खरीद लूं मैं, राइट. तो है ना, ज्यादा ज्ञान दूंगा तो क्या करोगे आप? रील बना दोगे, यूट्यूब पे डाल दोगे, फेसबुक पे डाल देंगे, isn't it? I don't want to be that real content and फेसबुक का, यूट्यूब का रील्स एंड एडुटेनमेंट का थिंग. और मैं चाहता हूं कि आप भी प्लीज, you know, discipline yourself, be disciplined in terms of, you know, content, knowledge, be disciplined in terms of time, and be disciplined in terms of, you know, emotion. Discipline your emotion, limit your emotion, discipline your emotion, है ना. Your response should be very reasoned, reasonable response होना चाहिए, emotive response नहीं होना चाहिए. मैं तोड़ दूंगा, फोड़ दूंगा, आ गया हूं ठाकुर, नहीं, emotive response नहीं. ठाकुर अपना हाथ कटवा बैठा, काहे का? वैसा इमोशन में जाना कि हाथ ही कट गया, लाइफ टाइम का प्रॉब्लम, राइट. इमोटिव रिस्पॉन्स नहीं, है ना. डिसिप्लिन योर इमोशन, isn't it? Syllabus is the God, isn't it? We will discipline ourselves to the syllabus, है ना. आजकल हर जगह भगवान ही दिखते हैं तो मान लेंगे सिलेबस को ही गॉड, है ना. Syllabus is the God. You have to worship that syllabus, right? And yes, I can claim myself to be a priest of that syllabus on the basis of my, you know, dedication, है ना, in past, you know, 14-15 years, right, compromising all with, life and lifestyles. Yesterday was my marriage anniversary and I could not go to see my wife. क्योंकि रह गया टाइम, मैं सोचा कि यार अपना तो हो गया, कितनों का मैरिज रुक जाएगा अगर नहीं होगा मेंस तो, राइट? तो सो इट इज बेटर, सो कल भी डिस्कशन होता रह गया, है ना? Yesterday also one-on-one discussion I had, so मैंने कहा ठीक है चलो. तो you can, you know, for the time being, when you consider me the priest, isn't it? So with the help of this priest, you have to worship the syllabus. Worshipping तो आप ही को करनी है. If you worship the syllabus, then worshipping, you know, the social media, the toppers, telegrams, isn't it? There are all chances that you will get decent scores, isn't it? सिलेबस का वर्शिप करोगे तो स्कोप समझोगे टॉपिक का, नेचर समझोगे टॉपिक का, प्रॉब्लम का स्कोप एंड नेचर विल अंडरस्टैंड, एंड इफ यू अंडरस्टैंड द नेचर एंड स्कोप ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम, यू विल प्रोवाइड सॉल्यूशन बिकॉज यू ऑल आर नॉलेज्ड, यू ऑल आर लर्नेड. उसमें बहुत डिफरेंस नहीं है. डिफरेंस कहां पे होता है? अंडरस्टैंडिंग द नेचर एंड स्कोप ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम, राइट? है ना? सो दिस इज ओके. गुड लक, गॉड ब्लेस यू ऑल.